met him on a rainy Thursday evening, the kind of evening when the city seemed to glow through the wet glass instead of simply getting dark. His name was Leon, and I noticed his smile before I noticed anything else about him. We were both waiting for our drinks at the crowded little bar, and when he caught me looking, he raised his glass as if we had already shared a secret. I should have looked away, but instead I smiled back, thinking, well, this could be interesting. A few minutes later, he appeared beside me and said, "I have a game for you." I laughed because I assumed he was joking, but he explained that we each had to guess one thing about the other, and whoever guessed wrong had to buy the next drink. His first guess was that I was secretly much more adventurous than I looked, and I hated how quickly he seemed to see through me. Wrong, I told him, although the warmth in my cheeks suggested otherwise. My turn came, and I studied him for a moment, pretending to be far more confident than I felt. You're the kind of man who gets into trouble and then convinces everyone it was a good idea, I said. He laughed, leaned a little closer, and whispered, "That depends on the company." Something shifted between us then, almost imperceptibly, like a door opening somewhere neither of us had noticed before. I suddenly became very aware of how close his hand was to mine. The game continued, but the questions became less innocent, wrapped in jokes and half smiles that left more unsaid than spoken. He asked what I considered irresistible, and I answered confidence, while secretly wondering whether he could hear my heartbeat. When I asked him the same question, he looked directly into my eyes and said, "Someone who knows exactly what she wants." Oh, come on, I thought. Don't look at me like that, unless you mean it. Eventually, the bar began to empty, and neither of us seemed willing to be the first to leave. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the pavement shining beneath the streetlights, like a path through another world. Leon offered to walk me home, and I said yes before I had time to invent a sensible reason not to. With every step, I felt the strange, exhilarating certainty that something was happening to me and that I was letting it. At my building, we stopped beneath the awning, suddenly quiet after all that teasing. "So," he said, smiling, "who won the game?" I wanted to give him a clever answer, but all I could think was that I didn't want the evening to end. When he kissed me, it was gentle at first, almost a question, and I answered by moving closer. One kiss became another, and for a few breathless seconds, the whole city seemed to disappear around us. I could feel the warmth of his hand at my waist, and that delicious little voice in my head kept saying, "This is reckless. This is ridiculous. This is exactly what you've been missing." We finally pulled apart, both laughing softly, as though we couldn't quite believe ourselves. "This," I whispered, "was definitely not part of the game." He looked at me with that same mischievous smile and said, maybe the game was just an excuse. I laughed, but inside, I felt something tender unfolding, something far bigger than a flirtation that had gone too far. We kissed once more before saying goodnight, knowing neither of us could promise what would happen next. As I watched him disappear into the shimmering streets, I realized that sometimes magic doesn't announce itself. It simply looks at you across a crowded bar and dares you to play.